How does someone entrusted with saving lives become one of the most prolific killers in history? Charles Cullen, a nurse who worked at multiple hospitals across New Jersey and Pennsylvania, shattered the sacred trust between caregivers and patients. Over the course of 16 years, Cullen is believed to have murdered as many as 400 patients, though the confirmed number stands at 29. Cullen's case is not only a chilling tale of a man who weaponized his medical knowledge, but also a damning indictment of the system that enabled his killing spree. How could a person so deeply flawed exploit the gaps in healthcare oversight to such a devastating extent? Charles Cullen was born on February 22nd, 1960, in West Orange, New Jersey, as the youngest of 8 siblings in a struggling family. His childhood was marked by tragedy and hardship. Cullen's father died when he was just 7 months old, leaving his mother to raise a large family alone. The financial strain and lack of stability weighed heavily on young Cullen, who struggled to fit in at school. He was often bullied and described as introverted, preferring the company of books to that of his peers. At the age of 17, Cullen faced another devastating blow when his mother, the only source of stability in his life, was killed in a car accident. This event plunged him into a deep depression, leaving scars that would follow him into adulthood. After high school, Cullen attempted to find direction in life by enlisting in the U.S. Navy. However, his time in the military was fraught with difficulties. His bizarre behavior, such as wearing a surgical mask for no apparent reason and standing at attention for hours on end, led to his charge. This pattern of odd and concerning behavior continued into his nursing career. Cullen's entry into nursing seemed, at first, like a positive step. He graduated from the Mountainside Hospital School of Nursing in 1987 and quickly secured a job at St. Barnabas Medical Center in Livingston, New Jersey. However, it was here that his killing spree began. Cullen's first known murder occurred in 1988 when he administered a lethal dose of digoxin, a drug used to treat heart conditions, to a patient. The death was initially ruled natural, a testament to how well Cullen concealed his crimes. Over the next 16 years, he would kill dozens more, using a variety of drugs, including insulin, epinephrine, and digoxin. Cullen's methods were cold and calculated. By contaminating IV bags with these drugs, he ensured that his actions were difficult to trace. His victims were often elderly or critically ill patients, chosen because their deaths were less likely to raise immediate suspicion. Cullen viewed his victims not as individuals, but as opportunities to exert control, a recurring theme in his psychological profile. Despite a growing number of suspicious deaths, Cullen managed to evade serious scrutiny for years. His ability to move from hospital to hospital without consequences was facilitated by systemic failures in the healthcare industry. When suspicions arose about his behavior, hospitals often chose to quietly dismiss him or allow him to resign rather than conduct thorough investigations. This pattern of inaction was driven by a desire to avoid lawsuits and bad publicity, creating a deadly loophole that Cullen exploited repeatedly. For example, after leaving St. Barnabas Medical Center in 1992, under suspicion of tampering with IV bags, Cullen found work at Warren Hospital, where his killing spree continued. At one point, Cullen even attempted to kill a co-worker who had questioned his actions, demonstrating the lengths he was willing to go to silence those who posed a threat to his facade. The full extent of Cullen's crimes began to unravel in 2003 while he was employed at Somerset Medical Center in Somerville, New Jersey. A pattern of unexplained deaths prompted an internal investigation, and administrators noticed that Cullen was present during an unusually high number of fatalities. Additionally, medication records revealed that he had accessed drugs that were not prescribed to any of his patients. Despite these glaring red flags, the hospital hesitated to report their findings to law enforcement, fearing damage to its reputation. It wasn't until two determined detectives, Tim Braun and Danny Baldwin, stepped in that the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. Their investigation was bolstered by the courage of Amy Loughran, a fellow nurse and close colleague of Cullen's. Loughran secretly collaborated with law enforcement, wearing a wire during conversations with Cullen to gather evidence. Her bravery was instrumental in securing Cullen's arrest, exposing the horrifying truth behind his actions. Cullen's confession was as chilling as the crimes themselves. During his interrogation, he admitted to killing at least 40 patients, but claimed he could not remember the names of many of his victims. He portrayed his actions as acts of mercy, asserting that he was ending the suffering of his patients. However, forensic psychologists painted a different picture. They described Cullen as a deeply disturbed individual, driven by a need for control and a warped sense of altruism. His calm and emotionless demeanor during his confession contrasted sharply with the horrors he inflicted on his victims. Cullen was charged with multiple counts of murder and sentenced to 18 consecutive life terms in 2006. His conviction brought some measure of closure to the families of his victims, but the systemic failures that enabled his crimes left a lasting stain on the healthcare industry. The case of Charles Cullen exposed critical flaws in hospital oversight and accountability, prompting calls for reform. Many of the hospitals where Cullen worked failed to properly investigate suspicious deaths or report their concerns to the authorities. The lack of a centralized system to track problematic healthcare workers allowed Cullen to continue his killing spree unabated. In the wake of his arrest, several states implemented stricter regulations for reporting suspicious activities in healthcare settings. However, Cullen's case is a reminder of the dangers posed by unchecked power and the importance of vigilance in protecting vulnerable populations. How could someone like Charles Cullen, operate undetected for so long? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more in-depth true crime stories.